I'm wondering with the New Jersey market as opposed to the PA market. So we found that in Pennsylvania, the medicinal was expensive in the beginning, like everything.
Yeah.
Full prices, and then after a few years, in Pennsylvania, the plus for them is they have a lot of place dispensaries, a lot of competition, so that brought the price down. I mean, the price is like half of what they used to be. So in New Jersey, I know that dispensary prices were high, and I know now that some of the prices starting to come down a little bit. So with that in mind, how do you get ready for that? When you talking about price change, all of something might be a year or two or three where it's going to be a dramatic, well, hopefully dramatic for the consumer price drop. So how do you prepare for that?
So that is the topic of conversation on a daily basis that we have. So we took the time to study the other cannabis markets out there, and we think we have a good idea of what that time will look like. So a little bit more, the oil and gas company that Neil and I were with was owned by a private equity company known as Carlyle Group. And so part of the training that we received was in, thinking about and looking at things the way a private equity company would look at it, right? So that real high-end stuff. And so
without the 5-year turn.
What's that? Yeah. So what we ended up doing was, we dove into studying other states, so like a Massachusetts, a Michigan, a Colorado, to see what happened. And what you see is you get this opportunity in like the first like year 0 to like 3, 4, 5, like somewhere in there. It varies a little bit, but essentially that's that, and that's where your margins stay fat, and then they just compress, right? And when you talk about how people react to that, they make a lot of money, right? You're gonna make a lot of money in the beginning, but it's what you do with that and how you think things are gonna go and how you react to that, which decides whether you're gonna succeed after those initial years where things are fat and you got to get tough. So, we come from an industry where you spent billions to make millions, which literally means you spent hundreds of dollars to make pennies. So essentially cannabis gets those, it's not that extreme. So you think about how do you overcome that, and you start putting into place what's important, operational excellence, right? Like what? This is cannabis. We're thinking about operational excellence. You need to have a thought process around continuous improvement, operational excellence. How do you just keep doing things a little bit better? Looking at automation, looking at AI, thinking about things from that lens, and incorporating them into your business and investing in that today.
Yep.
Because as soon as those things start squeezing you, that's how you get ahead. And so these are the types of things that we are thinking about right now in order to make sure that when that time comes, we are not just surviving, but we are thriving as a company.
Yep. And not only is that from your perspective, but that's really good advice for this entire industry, because
That's right.
because we're not in the Cheech and Chong days anymore. No. We're not. And so the businesses need to actually sharpen up, right? We need to sharpen up, but we need to understand that in order to inject ourselves into the mainstream structure of every other business, we need to act like that.
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, I mean, listen, I just heard every word you said and agree, and I think that's why you're sitting here now talking about it. We're working, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to create, we're trying to create structured media that is more customary to what you're typically accustomed to get to, rather than what you would typically expect stoner content to be. And so while we have our fair share of shenanigans, I might say,
you gotta have fun, man.
You gotta have fun.
you gotta have fun.
Have fun.
And this is why Late Night Green's broken up into 2 pieces. Like, we do the serious interview here, and then we have other people who come in and give you guys the opportunity to sit in. I think it's interesting for a person that is, the everyday person who goes to the dispensary to hear what goes into how that cartridge right here, this one right here, even got in your fucking hands. So this is a really, it's we call it a full circle conversation. It allows from the top to the bottom where they get to be able to ask you that. My point of bringing all of this up is that it's about mainstreaming a more side cultured industry, because we're talking about over 33 billion dollars a year just in the United States. 50 some billion if you want to incorporate the rest of the world. It's not
little.
It's not a baby thing anymore.
No.
And when we first kind of dipped our toe into the water, it was pretty amazing, because the industry, even back in 2017, was kind of still really rough around the edges, and we couldn't even use our own names. We couldn't do a lot of things back then. A lot of things we couldn't do. But it was really interesting to see how business was done. I was at a dinner. We had Johnny B on here one night, OG entrepreneur in the space. He was doing it when you were like an outlaw for fucking doing this shit. And he brought me to a dinner where I watched a publication get sold. Literally, the dinner was a group of maybe 12 to 14 people at a big table, and there was a corner of it where there was a deal going down.
Yeah.
And then notes were being taken on the napkin.
Yep.
The shit you only see in the movies, right? But here it was happening right in front of me, and I'm going, man, this is wild. This is a brand new industry that's forming here right in front of our face. And so that was, besides my love for cannabis, which has been, kind of enduring. He knows me for a while. The fact is the business component of the opportunity really showed its face during that, especially that dinner where I'm like, wow, it's crazy how this, you don't think stuff's being done, but that's what happens in an early stage industry where there's not a whole lot of vertical to it, and shit gets done. You can make shit get done. And so that's my little interesting contribution to kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah, man. I mean,
there's nothing that makes a business real like taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
That's right.
And really boring. Super boring.
All right, so here's what we're going to do.